Alright, so this is going to be my tutorial on how to play Mahjong using Mahjong Souls, which can be played online through your web browser, which is really useful. I mean, actually, because you do need an account to play, but it's really quick. So, if you want to play later on as we do this thing, I recommend creating an account. But yeah, we're gonna start with the basic rules, and I'm gonna weave in progressively more and more interesting advice I would give to new players and new to kind of experienced players. And then we'll play some games. And while we play some games, what I thought I would do is commentate how I go through my games, how I decide which hands I want to go for, that kind of stuff. So to begin with, in order to play Mahjong, you need a set of tiles, and here are all the tiles that are in a Mahjong game. So there's 5 types of tiles: the man, the pin, and the so. I'll be referring to these with different names. The ones at the top I usually call characters. The ones in the middle I call circles, and the ones at the bottom I call bamboo. There's also wind tiles and dragon tiles. So as you can see, the first thing that's striking is that the characters, the circles, and the bamboo all have digits that go from 1 to 9. So these are the 3 suits that you're going to play with during a Mahjong game. The other tiles, such as the winds and the dragons, are the honor tiles, and they have specific properties. They don't act quite the same as the regular suits act, and they are generally much more important and much more powerful in a game of Mahjong. But I'll be going in detail over what specific things these tiles have when we get to it, when we actually look at a screenshot of what it looks like in game. For now, what I would advise to remember is the 3 families: characters, circles, and bamboo, and then learning to recognize them. Obviously, in Mahjong Souls, it's actually pretty easy because you have a neat little number above every single tile, which is useful because with characters, it's not always easy to recognize which one you have in your hand. So regular Mahjong sets don't have that, so it's useful to have that here. As for the wind tiles and the dragon tiles, the wind tiles are kind of annoying the same way, but again, you've got a letter indicating which one they're talking about, and then for dragon, you just go off the color. So that's pretty much covers it for the tiles. The last thing I want to point out is when it comes to the suits, the number 1 and number 9 of each suit are called they're called terminals, and they have specific properties when you're trying to make hands. So it's a bit different. But I'll be going over those when we get to it. There's also something different about the number 5 tiles, or at least some of the number 5 tiles. And once again, I'll go back to that when it becomes relevant. And the important thing I forgot to mention is that for each tile you see on your screen right now, a Mahjong game contains 4 of each tile, much like a card game would have 4 cards of each type. This is the same. So, I'm gonna make a brief stop here to explain how to build a hand in Mahjong, and then we're going to look at a screenshot of what a proper game looks like, and I'll be able to explain all the different bits and pieces that go into that. So the first thing you notice is that at the beginning of a game in Mahjong, you are dealt 13 tiles. You always have 13 tiles in your hand at any moment, and when your turn has come, you draw a tile from a wall. In game, it's done automatically. But with your hand of 13 tiles plus the one you draw off the wall, you're trying to complete a very specific type of hand. So this is a kind of hand you want to reach is what's shown at the bottom in the winning box. So a winning hand consists of 4 sequences or triplets and a pair. So sequences or triplets, I usually tend to refer to them as melds. And as the box says, a winning hand usually consists of 4 sequences or triplets, and I would probably say it almost always consists of 4 sequences and triplets and a pair. This is the layout that pretty much 99% of your hands are going to look like. At any point in a Mahjong game, you are trying to build 4 melds and a pair of different tiles. And there's also specified is a Yaku. We'll go over what a Yaku is a little bit later when I go over all the different types of Yaku. But basically, a Yaku is a condition that your hand has to meet so it can score points. And the more Yaku you score with your hand, the more points you get. But as for the melds, there's 2 types of melds: the sequences and the triplets. The sequences are a small straight of 3 tiles, and a triplet is a set of 3 identical tiles, and a pair is a set of 2 identical tiles. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated than that, because when it comes to sequences, you can only do sequences with the suits. So the characters, the circles, and the bamboo. You cannot do sequences of honor tiles. It doesn't work that way. Even the winds, you could go like, oh, I go east and the south and in the west. No, that doesn't work that way. When it comes to honors, the only melds you can make with them are triplets or your pair. So you cannot do sequences with those. Triplets work with any kind of tile, and so do pairs. Yes, it's basically, I see Mantis putting this out in chat, it's basically a flush. All your sequences have to be of the same suits, and something important that the game doesn't point out here is the sequences, if you're trying to make a sequence, the suits don't wrap around, so you cannot have a sequence.
Okay, that was my question. If you could go like 9, 1, 2.
You can't do that. It's 8, stuff like 8, 9, 1. You're not allowed to do that. It has to be 1 to 3, 1 to 9, and then it stops. This is why the tiles 1 and 9 are called terminal tiles, because if you could wrap around, they wouldn't have these properties. Because as you'll see, well, you'll actually notice when you're playing Mahjong that terminal tiles are much harder to play with than what we call simple tiles, which are 2 to 8. Alright, so is there anything else I wanted to point out? Yeah, triplets can be any kind of tile as long as you have 3 of the same, it counts. Pairs can be also any kind of tile. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wait, remind me one more time what a Yaku was?
So a Yaku is a condition that your final hand at the bottom here needs to meet in order to be valid. You cannot make any kind of combination of melds plus a pair, and then call out the win, right? You need to have.
So it's like a winning declaration.
Yeah, and you.
Okay.
These are like kind of like challenge conditions. It's like your hand has to meet specific stuff, and I'll be going over almost every single Yaku that you can have. The only Yaku that I won't be covering are the Yaku that are called the Yakuman, which are worth a shit ton of points, but are so rare that it's kind of pointless. Okay. So, for example, if we, I'm gonna go over a very brief Yaku, and then we're gonna move on to something else right now. If you look at the hand at the bottom, this is in fact a winning hand, but it's a pretty shitty winning hand because it doesn't really have anything outstanding about it. It's like you have a mix of pretty much everything. You've got some sequences, you've got some triplets, some honors, some regular tiles. You've got all the suits are there, so there's not really anything that stands out. The only Yaku that this hand would be able to score is the relevant wind Yaku, of which there are 2 of, because it has a triplet of east winds. and a triplet of east winds if, and that's what we'll go over next, is if the round you're playing is in the east round or you are on the east seat, I'll cover that later on, then a triplet of the relevant wind is worth 1 Yaku, or worth 1 Han. I'll go over what Han is a little bit later. So just keep in mind that for now, just keep in mind that any combination of 4 melds plus a pair does not necessarily mean it is valid. There's specific conditions you have to meet. The next thing I'm gonna do, let's see, what's the next? Yeah, I guess I could show this also very briefly. A winning hand must contain a Yaku, this is what I was talking about, and there are 42 Yakus in total, which is a bunch, but you'll see that a lot of them are very similar to each other, and in fact I have made a graphic, or it's not really a graphic, it's more like an image, where I regroup a bunch of Yakus that go together, because they're similar in how they're formed, and I think that this way it will be easier to remember and to categorize what kind of Yaku there are in Mahjong. The game says that as a starter, you only need to learn the 3 types of Yaku, which is all simples, Riichi, and Yakuhai. I would add a few more to that, but we'll go over that when I go over Yaku. For now, let's just leave it at that. And what I'm going to show next is a screenshot of just a regular game of Mahjong, and we'll go over everything that's going on when it comes to that. So you should be able to see the screenshot. So this is actually an interesting screenshot. I was surprised. This is like a year old, and yet I'm gonna be able to use this this screenshot for so much. It's very, very useful. So the first thing I want to talk about with this screenshot is you see at the center of the screen there's a bunch of information. It says East 4, and then at the edge of that little square at the in the center, you've got some letters ESWN, and these obviously corresponds to the 4 winds that are in Mahjong. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the round seat. So the way that Mahjong is played is that you go through a set of hands, and every time a hand finishes, it starts at East 1, and every time a hand finishes, it in increments by 1. So you go from East 1 to East 2 to East 3 to East 4. When you reach East 4 and the last hand is complete, you either end the game, because some games only go over only 1 East round, or you go into South round. South round is the same as East round, except the wind corresponding to that round is the South wind and not the East wind. What I mean by that is, remember earlier when the game showed you a winning hand and I talked about the triplet of East wind? During an East round, any player could right now declare a triplet of East winds, and that would instantly be a Yaku, and their hand would be valid. If they can complete it, it's a valid hand and they can win points off of that. Now, if we take 1 round later and we start in South round, now the wind that you have to use in order to score that Yaku is the South wind, and so on and so forth. So you have to watch out. You always have to be aware of what the round wind is and what your seat wind also is. So when it comes to seat wind, you can see in the center, well, the edges of the square, you can see ESWN. These are the seats of any player. So you see me at the bottom right now, I'm in the South wind right now. So the 2 winds that I'm interested in right now are the East winds and the South winds. The other winds right now that are West wind and North wind don't do anything for me. If I get a triplet of West wind or North wind, it's not gonna count as a Yaku, and it's not going to make my hand valid. So I don't really care as much about those tiles as I do about East and South. So what you have to watch out during any time that you're playing Mahjong is what seat your wind, what wind your seat is, and what round you're playing, because it does on this specific occasion when it comes to relevant winds, it does play a part, and it does change what kind of hands are going to be acceptable and not. So, are there any questions in regards to that, or is it clear to everyone? because the win thing is usually pretty tough to get down.
Yeah, I'm not entirely. I mean, I also did enter a little bit later, so that might be why. But I don't necessarily get exactly. I guess just the entire thing of just the wins in general is just confusing all together.
Maybe I missed, like, what does it mean for a hand to be valid? I mean, I should just go on right now, and I'll ask more questions later if it gets answered later.
Just real quick to reiterate, a winning hand is 4 melds and a pair. It's always like that. There's very few exceptions to that rule. So 4 melds, so sequences or triplets, and a pair.
Okay.
And you want a Yaku, obviously, for that hand to be valid. And so this is what I was talking about. A lot of people want to get a triplet of the relevant wind in their hand because that's instantly a Yaku, which means you don't have to do anything fancy with your hand anymore. You can just try to get the remaining melds in your pair, and then that's it. And when you get that, you've won the game.
So what are the other Yakus then?
I'll go over every specific other Yaku later on because there's a ton of them. But this is one that you can remember right now very easily. Is the Fanpai Yaku is when you have a triplet of a relevant wind, so whatever seat wind you're on and whatever round you're on, which in Mahjong Souls the rounds are always going to be either east or south. So that instantly makes east and south tiles a bit more valuable. So that's instantly a Yaku, so that's a very easy Yaku to get. In fact, it's one of the easiest ones to get. Now, the next thing you can see in this game is a bunch of tiles that are face up around the central square. And what these are just, this is everyone's discard pile. The discard pile is basically what you do during your turn is you have 14 tiles, you must go back to 13, so either you pick a tile that helps you build a meld or not. If it helps you pick a meld, then you keep it, and you pick a tile in your wall of 13 tiles that you think might not be as useful, and you discard it. And that is how you build your hand in Mahjong, tile per tile, as you go through each hand. You're constantly looking to build your hands with the 4 melds, the pair, and the Yaku. So this is how you do it. There's another way that you can also secure triplets and sequences. You can steal tiles from other players. Now, there's very I think the tutorial in game covers this, so we'll see it at some point. But basically, if you have 2 tiles that would, if you have 2 tiles that would either make a sequence or triplet if you had the third one, and someone discards the tile that you need, you can call it out and steal it and have it for yourself. And that can help you build your hand easily rather than just trying to top deck, basically. Instead of trying to top deck, you're stealing other players' tiles, and it's easier to build your hand that way. But it's also a bit more risky for 2 reasons. If you're stealing tiles from other players, you lock yourself out of a bunch of Yaku. And it also means that whenever you steal tiles from other players, you have to reveal what the meld you're stealing the tile for is. So you show it off to the rest of the table. And what that means is, if the players are knowledgeable enough about the game, they'll be able to tell, oh, he's doing this hand, so he's gonna wait for, or he's doing this Yaku, therefore I can know which tiles he might be interested in, and I will make sure not to discard those, so I won't get anything stolen from me. And this is also how you win.
Sorry, this is sort of a not necessarily important question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What does Yaku mean?
Yaku. So Yaku is just what I was talking about. Is just I don't think it has any equivalent in English. The game doesn't translate it. It's just a condition that your hand meets in order for it to be valid, and score points.
Okay.
Like for example, I'm gonna take a Yaku at random. We already talked about the wins, a triplet of relevant wins earlier. But if you look at my hand at the bottom, this is actually a completed hand. This is a screenshot of me winning, and a very easy to recognize Yaku that you can see here is that every single one of my tiles is of the same suit. That's a Yaku. That's an example of Yaku.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's like if there's any like underlying metaphor that would contextualize this.
Yeah, there's not really any. I mean, a lot of this is hard to translate. I've translated as much as I can, but it's kind of difficult.
Wait. Oh, I was reading what Ramen said. Never mind.
I'm pretty sure that's right, isn't it?
Four of a kind is not always a Yaku, actually, but we'll go over Yaku later on.
Just try to compare it to card games because everyone's
Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That kind of makes sense.
So going back to the discard thing, so if you can only take what was just discarded,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And something also that I should point out is when it comes to triplets, you can steal from any player. That's fine. But then again, but the game will like give you the option when you can steal something. It will like display it. It will either display pawn. Pawn means steal a tile for a triplet, or pass, and pass means you do nothing. When it comes to sequences, you cannot steal from anyone. You can only steal from the player that's to the left of you. So that's the player that goes before you.
Oh.
The reason for this is sequences are much easier to build than triplets.
What about pairs?
You cannot steal from pairs. You have to build the pairs yourself.
Okie dokie.
Alright, so when it comes to that, I think that's pretty much good. Yeah, something else I should mention is...
Wait, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What did you mean by steal from pairs?
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say that.
You can't.
You can't steal a pair. You can't steal tiles to build a pair. The pairs must be built off the wall. We call off the wall. When I say off the wall, it's basically you have to top deck it.
So like it remembers where the tile came from or something?
Well, basically you have to make a vocal call to steal tiles.
Yeah.
That's one way that you can acquire tiles, and the only other possible method that there is to get tiles is from the deck. So in order to build your pair, you either have to have a pair in your hand at the beginning of the game, or you have to draw from the wall or top deck another tile that would build your pair. You cannot steal it from anyone.
I think because I don't
it
think
is
you
like
explained pawn properly, because it's like when you steal, you have to basically discard it, don't you? Or not discard, like put to the side.
Yes, when you steal a tile from another player, it counts as the tile you normally would have drawn from the wall, because now you have 14 tiles, since you stole one from another player. So when that happens, you set aside and reveal to the whole table the meld that you've completed, and you have to discard a tile. And this replaces your draw.
This is why pairs don't work, is it's only threes, I think, or something. Or
Yes,
fours,
yes.
Okay. So everyone, it's revealed all the time the ones you've stolen.
Yes. Whenever you steal a tile, you reveal
okay.
what the tile is. That screenshot is a bit annoying for that. I don't know if I have any others right now. I'd have to look. But because everyone, believe it or not, which is something that happens very rarely in this game, especially in bronze rooms, but everyone's hand is closed in this game, which is really rare. We call stealing tiles opening your hand. And I'll go over what the differences is between having a closed hand and an open hand later on. But for now, just remember that that's an option. And when it comes to stealing tiles, you can steal from any player when it comes to making a triplet. But for sequences, you can only steal from the player that's to the left of you. And when you steal to make a sequence, the keyword that is spoken out to steal the tile is chi. The other thing about the discard pattern, and I think will be good for that, that I wanted to point out, is you'll notice that some of these tiles are to the side rather than facing up. You can see it on my discard pile, also from the discard pile of the North Wind and the East Wind. Now what that means is these players, myself included, have called Riichi. Riichi is a specific rule added to Riichi Mahjong, that's why it's called that. And it is something that you call out when you're one tile away from having a completed hand. And what Riichi does is that it announces to everyone, I'm one tile away from winning. So now I'm going to autopilot discard anything I don't need. So watch out for what you discard, because I can win off of you. And if I do, then you'll pay me points. And another thing about Riichi that you must remember is that Riichi can only be done with a closed hand. If you've stolen tiles from other players, you cannot announce Riichi anymore. The game won't even give you the option, so in that case it's pretty... But
the point of Riichi is you get extra points for winning.
It's to get extra points, but it's also... if you can also do it if your hand kind of sucks and doesn't have any Yaku, but if you have it with a closed hand, you can be like, well, don't have to care, I can just call Riichi and hopefully one of the tiles that I'm waiting on will be discarded, and that makes your hand valid. So if you're struggling to complete a hand and if you're struggling with Yaku, I recommend keeping your hand closed and trying to get Riichi, because that way you're sure your hand is guaranteed to be valid at the end of the turn. Yes, completing a hand in Riichi is a Yaku.
Okay.
So here you can see 3 players have called Riichi, myself included, and as such there's a little bar with a red dot next to their seat. That is because when you call Riichi, you have to pay 1,000 points, because it's like a bet. You're betting that your hand will finish.
Where is it? Oh, never mind. I see it. Never mind.
Yeah. And you can also see how many Riichi are going on. At the top left, you see there's a bunch of tiles, and then there's a bar with a single dot saying times 3, and a bar with many dots that say times 1. The one that says times 3 tells you how many Riichi are going on. So usually, here there's basically 3 Riichi that are going on, and once again, I'm gonna show off, but my Riichi actually happens very early in the hand, and that's good. Usually, if you're gonna Riichi, you want to do it pretty early as you can. I'm not gonna go into the specifics why right now. We'll go over it later. But the earlier you call Riichi, the easier or the harder it is for your opponents to know what kind of hand you're building. And so the more likely it is for them to deal the hand that you're waiting on and for them to pay you. And usually when it comes down to the end of the hand, you can see there's 2 players that have called Riichi very late into the hand. I generally would advise against that, because you're paying 1,000 points for something in a hand that's almost completely over. So the chances of you finishing that hand are pretty slim at that point. And also you have a huge discard pile at that point, which is all the more information that other players can use against you in order to defend against your Riichi. So keep that in mind. A Riichi is best done early. And you can see precisely how far you are in a hand. You can see under East 4 right now, there's times 07, and that is the number of remaining tiles that the players will draw from. Once there are no more tiles to draw, the hand ends. And that's something I should also point out is at the beginning, it's probably going to happen a few times. You'll go through the entire deck or the entire wall without anyone finishing their hand. And that's fine. That happens. And when that happens, the players that are 1 tile away from having their hand complete, they reveal their hand to the other players. And and every player that has a hand that is 1 tile away, even if it doesn't have any Yaku, which is interesting. Even if your hand doesn't have any Yaku, if it's 1 tile away from having 4 Melds plus a pair, you will earn 1,000 points. Unless everyone has a unless everyone is in that state, in which case there are no points exchanged. What that does mean is that if there are 3 players that from now on, whenever I say 1 tile away from winning, that has a specific term. It's called Tenpai, and that's what I'll use from now on. So pay attention to that. I'll re-explain it if it needs to be re-explained. But basically, 1 tile away from winning equals Tenpai. If there are 3 players in Tenpai, that means that the player that isn't has to pay the others 1,000 points each. So you end up losing 3,000 points for that. So that can be pretty brutal. Alright. So other than that, there are a few things I would like to mention, but I'm just making sure that I haven't forgotten anything essential, but I think that's pretty good for now. Right. Something I want to mention right now before I forget is the Dora. So Dora are bonus tiles that give you additional points if you manage to complete your hand. At the beginning of each round, there will be an assigned tile that will indicate which tile is the bonus tile, the Dora, that will net you extra points. So you can see it at the top left. Right now, there's 2 Dora tiles, and I will get into why a bit later. But there's 2 Dora tiles right now, and they are not the 5 of circles and not the 2 of bamboo. Because those tiles at the top indicate what the bonus tile is, but it's actually the tile that comes right afterwards. So in this case, the Dora tiles are the 6 of circles and the 3 of bamboo. So you always gotta remember that the tiles that are up there indicate the bonus tile. That's the one right afterwards. They do it this way, so there's more Dora in game basically, because these tiles that are up there are not part of the they're not part of the deck. You can never draw those tiles, so they're considered dead tiles. So for example, if I'm trying.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, so how many tiles are in the deck? Like how many of each tile are in the deck?
I couldn't tell you precisely.
4.
There's 4 of each.
4 of each.
Yeah, right. If you're asking, there's 4 tiles of each type of tile. Okay. It's like a card game basically. You've got the 4 aces, shit like that. Here it's like that, except all suits have 4 cards of each, or 4 tiles of each, and same for dragons and winds. So every tile in the game, there's 4 of them. That's all you have to remember. But here, for example, the 5 of circles and the 2 of bamboo, you'll effectively only play with 3 of them, because those 2 up there are not part of the game. You can't steal them or do anything with them. They're dead. We actually call that part of, since this is they constitute a wall, and since you never draw into them, they're considered a dead wall. So all the tiles that appear up there are dead tiles. You can't do anything with them, but they indicate what the bonus tiles are. So here, the 2 bonus tiles that exist are the 6 of circles and the 3 of bamboo. If you have those in your hand, once your hand is complete, you get 1 additional Han. Now, a Han is what is one of 2 systems the game uses to calculate points. It's very complicated and annoying to remember, so even I don't know the specifics. Just remember that the more Yaku you get, the more points you get, and the more I said Yaku. Fuck, that's gonna be confusing. Forget I said that. The more Han you get, the more points you get. That's proper. That's a proper way of explaining it. Because some Yaku are actually worth multiple Han. When it comes to Dora, or bonus tiles, each tile that is designated as a bonus or Dora tile will add an additional Han to your completed hand. However, a bonus tile, even if it adds points and is worth as much as a Han, is not a Yaku. You cannot show up with a hand that has no Yaku and has, for example, a sequence, a pair, or a triplet of Dora and say, hey, I have my Yaku, it's the Dora tiles. No, that doesn't work that way. Sometimes they combine, and it's very lucky when that happens, but a tile that is Dora by itself is not enough for it to count as a Yaku. So just remember that they are bonus tiles, they do not necessarily validate your hand. There's another type of Dora tiles, and you can see it in my discard pile and also in my hand. And this is what I was talking about at the very beginning with some of the 5 suits, or the number 5 in each suit. You can see in my discard pile there's a red 5 of bamboo, and in my head there's a red 5 of circles. And these ones in particular they act just as if they were a Dora. So these tiles are permanent Doras. Every time you draw them, you know that if you do something with them, it will be worth an additional Han. Which makes them all the more dangerous to discard, of course. Are there any questions about Dora, or does anything need to be explained again? Because that was pretty hefty.
I thought the 6 of circles was the Dora. So
right.
why are you talking about the 5 of circles as like a permanent
right.
Dora, or were you talking about the SX?
So the 6 is a Dora in this specific game, but for every single round that you will play, there's only one tile of each suit that is like this, as opposed to the 4. But there's one tile which is entirely painted red, and that tile is always a Dora. It's like an additional, and some Mahjong sets play without those also. So right now the Dora that are in play are the 6 of circles, the 2 of bamboo, but also the red 5 of circles, the red 5 of bamboo, and the red 5 of characters. Does that make any sense?
All right, but how do you know that you have like the red one? Because they all look pretty similar to me.
Well, if you look at my hand, you can see that there's 3 5s of circles. 2 of them have 4 black circles and a red one, and the one all the way to the right is just completely red. That's how you can tell.
All right, so maybe it's just the screenshot that I can't really tell.
Oh, okay.
That much.
The other red tile in the screenshot is in my discard pile. The 8th tile that I've discarded. The red of 5 bamboo. Yeah, you can compare it to on the discard pile of the east seat. There's a regular 5 of bamboo. And that's how you can tell.
Yeah. All right.
Something also that Mahjong Souls is good for. The Dora tiles have a little animation to them at all times. They kind of like shimmer and shine. So whenever you'll see that in game, you'll just remember, oh right, that tile is shining. That means it's a Dora. That's how you know.
Oh, okay.
So that does it for the Dora. I think that's pretty exhaustive explanation of it. What else can I explain? So, alright, the next thing I'm going to explain is what the hell is going on with Eastwind, and what is that 4 of characters bullshit at the bottom, right? You're probably wondering. Well, that's a special kind of meld. Because when I said there's only sequences and triplets and pairs, I kind of lied. There's one more, and it's called quads. You can actually, if you have them, declare all 4 tiles in your hand as a quad. And Quads are pretty complicated due to the way that you can make them. Right now, what you can see with the 2 tiles that are face up and the 2 tiles that are face down, that is known as a closed quad. What that means is the player on East Wind had the 4 tiles of 4 characters. So he put the quads, set them aside, and declared to everyone, hey everyone, I have quads of this specific tile. What that does for him is it can mean more points, not necessarily, but we'll go over quads more in depth later on when I tell you why you shouldn't do them. Why newer players should stay away from quads, basically. But whenever you declare those quads, you also this is why there's 2 Dora indicators in this round. You add a Dora to the game. So normally, in a regular game of Mahjong, there would only be 1 Dora indicator at the top left. The second one wouldn't be revealed. It is only revealed because that player on East Wind declared he had a quad, and that reveals one of the hidden tiles. Yeah, exactly. Pato says that quads are usually counterproductive, and we'll get into why they suck, or they can suck, if you're not prepared to use them well. But something that I should point out for now, since I'm just going over the surface of quads. So this guy had a closed quad, and a closed quad, and closed quads are the safest way to make quads. So, and even though he has declared to everyone, hey, I have a quad of this, and set it aside, his hand is still considered close. So watch out for that. If you have a closed quad and you declare it, that doesn't mean that you've opened your hand. So you're still eligible for all of the Yaku that are closed hand only. You have to watch out for that. Does that make sense for when it comes to quads? I've not explained everything on purpose, but it'll be explained later.
I think I get it, yeah.
Okay, good. So that's good. The last thing I probably want to go over, and then I'll go back to the actual game and we'll do the rest of the tutorial, is on the top left, you see there's also there's a bar with 8 black dots that say ×1. That's relevant to something called the dealer keep. So in this game, the person that has the eastern seat is called the dealer. Now the dealer has some specific properties that other players don't have. If the dealer manages to finish their hand and score points for it, the dealer scores more points per hand than the rest of the board. If I'm east and I do a hand, it will be worth more points than if I'm south or west or north. So you always have to watch out for who's east, because their hand will usually score more points than someone else that isn't. Whenever they regardless of how they win, if they win through calling another player's tiles or going off or top decking, they're gonna earn more points and you're gonna end up paying more as a result. And the other thing about the dealer and why dealer keep exists is whenever the dealer earns points at the end of the round, even if he doesn't outright win the hand, if he's in Tenpai at the end and earns points for being in Tenpai, he keeps his seat. And we stay in East 4, and the player that has the Eastern seat will keep that seat. And that goes on until the Eastern seat does not earn any points in the hand. Which leads to situations, I've had it happen, where the Eastern player can stay on East and the game keeps going for 7 hands straight. It's really annoying. And there's a strategy that is based around doing really shitty but easy to complete fast hands when you're East, and just stacking points that way, and we call that eating tacos.
Mm,
Now the last thing, obviously related to dealer keep, is what I opened with, this bar at the top left with the 8 dots and the ×1. This indicates how many dealer keeps are going on. Because whenever a dealer keep is going on, that bar with the black dots corresponds to 100 points. And whenever there's a dealer keep that occurs, you add 100 points to the payout, and so that can rack up in points more and more as hands go on and dealer keeps go on. But yes, the taco thing, it actually comes from Saki, because there's a character that uses that technique in order to win the game. Is just, she doesn't do anything when it's not east wind, but whenever it's east wind and she's dealer, she basically scores a bunch of hands in order to get ahead of everyone else, and then she just plays defensive for the rest of the game. And it's a legit tactic. I've used it before. So I think that's pretty much it for this screenshot. I think I'll be able to go back to the regular game and show the rest of the tutorial. Are there any questions? Not specifically about anything, but about stuff you might have missed or not understood? Switch. In the
I can
meantime.
think of it.
Alright, good.
wait, but if there's only one dealer, how can there ever be more than one dealer keep?
Right.
Unless I misunderstood it.
The dealer, well, if there's only one dealer, but the same guy keeps, he keeps earning points, so the seat never changes. As long as the same guy earns points, the seat won't move, and he can keep earning points that way.
Okay.
The last thing I want to point out about dealer is whenever a player that isn't the dealer wins off the wall, so not off of anyone discarding the tile that they're waiting on, the player that's the dealer, so the player that's got the east wind, pays more than the others. Because usually, what's the dust to the left of dealer keep? That's the indicator of how many Riichi are going on. Where was I? Yeah, normally when the player that's on east calls a win from the wall, everyone pays the same amount of points. But whenever a player that isn't east calls a win from the wall, the two players that are not east pay less points than the player that is. So you gotta remember, when you're east, you earn more points if you win. But if anyone else wins off the wall, you pay more than the others. That's basically the simple of it. And yeah, the last, I guess it's probably going to be explained, so I'll leave that up for now. So let's change back to the tutorial. There we go. So yes, Yaku. Let's go back on this. So, now that you've seen what an actual game of Mahjong looks like. So there's 3 types of Yaku, which is the three types of Yakus for beginners: all simples, Riichi, and Yakuhai. So I've explained what Riichi is. Yakuhai is another very easy type of Yaku. It is so what I said before about getting a triplet of the relevant wind, that is a type of Yakuhai. It's not the only type of Yakuhai, but it is a type of Yakuhai. The other type of Yakuhai that instantly, if you get a triplet of it, your hand is valid, is if you get a triplet of dragons. At any points, at any moments, if you get a triplet of those, your hand is valid. So that's pretty much the easiest Yaku that there is just try to get a triplet of dragons, and then you don't have to worry about anything. You just complete your hand. All simples is pretty simple. Well, yeah, it's pretty easy as well. It's a lot of people say that all simples, as well as another Yaku that we'll go over later, is the foundation of Mahjong. All simples are it's a hand that is completed using only simple tiles. Now, simple tiles means 2 to 8 on each suit, no terminals, so no tiles labeled 1 or no tiles labeled 9, and no honors either. So you cannot subscribe for an all simples Yaku if you have any kind of honors or any kind of terminals in your hand. It must be simple tiles only. And there you go. The game basically shows it right there. So you can see there's no 1 or 9 tiles of any suit. There's no winds and there's no dragons. And that hand, you can see it does have 1 sequence 2, 3, 4, 1 sequence 5, 6, 7, 1 triplet 3 of circles, 1 sequence 4, 5, 6 of bamboo, and then a pair of 8 of bamboo. And that does give you the all simples Yaku, which is worth 1 Han. I've already explained what Riichi is, so that's basically retreading information I've already given out. Chi and Pon I've gone over, so we don't need to go over that again. I should go over Con. Con is the quads, right? We've talked about them a little bit earlier, but we've only seen closed quads. There's other ways to do quads, and that is open Con. Or calling con and opening your hand, and I'll go over it a little bit later why it's not a good idea, but for now remember that if you have a triplet in your hand, if you have 3 tiles, 3 identical tiles, and someone else discards the 4th one, you can call con and make a quad out of it that way. Though that does open your hand, but otherwise it's an identical con to the closed one. But you have to remember that it opens your hand, and it generally makes building your hand a little bit more difficult. The last way that you can get a con is if you have declared Pon to get a triplet. So you've already opened your hand. You've called Pon to get a triplet, and you draw off the wall. You top deck the last tile that goes with your triplet. You can choose, you don't have to, but you can choose to call con and add it to your triplet, and that's what I call completing a con. That's also an open con, and something that's unique to that type of building a quad. If you choose to use that tile to complete your con, it can be stolen by other people to complete their hand, but only if that would finish their hand. They can't steal it to do a sequence or a triplet with it. But if they're waiting on a tile to complete their hand, if they're in Tenpai, they're waiting on the tile to complete their hand, and you add that tile to your con, they can call it, and you will lose the round, and you'll have to pay. Before I go into Furiten, which is another beast of a topic, I'm gonna go over winning real quick. So there's 2 ways of winning, either and both of which start from you being in Tenpai. Once you're in Tenpai, there's 2 ways to win. Either someone discards the tile that you need, in which case you call Ron, and the player that has discarded that tile, they pay you the amount of points that your hand is worth. Or you grab the tile from the wall, or in other words, you top deck, and that completes your hand, and that's called a Tsumo. And a Tsumo, since no one has really dealt into your hand, everyone pays you a little bit. They pay you a third of what your hand would. Well, roughly a third. If you're not East, basically the East pays you more. But they pay you a fraction of what your hand is worth, and across all 3 players, it equals the amount of points that your hand is worth. So what you have to remember is, if you go off the discard of someone else, they pay you the entire worth of the hand. If you go off the wall or top deck, everyone pays you, and the one that's East pays you more. Now then, Furiten. Furiten is a bitch. Furiten is what gets, along with building hands that have no Yaku, this is what gets pretty much every single new player. So you have to really have to watch out for Furiten, because it's not always obvious, and it could be really annoying, and it still gets me at points. I sometimes I'll still build hands, get to Tenpai, and I'm like, fuck, I'm Furiten. So, being in the state of Furiten means you cannot call Furiten, or to be in Furiten, you have to be in Tenpai. First requirement, you have to be one tile away from winning. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you are in Furiten, you cannot call, you cannot win off the discards of someone else, right? You have to win off the wall, which sucks because it doesn't happen often. So, now that you know that, you're basically wondering, okay, Furiten kind of sucks, how do I avoid it? Well, there are 3 ways that you can get into Furiten. One of which is specific to Riichi, so I'm going to leave that off for later. The first way to get Furiten, and the most annoying one, is the discard Furiten. You can see on the little screenshot right there. How do I explain this? So you're in Tenpai, and you're waiting on a tile, or possibly several tiles, because let's say you have an almost complete hand, you're in Tenpai, but you have a sequence of, for example, on the screenshot, there's a sequence of 2 and 3 of bamboo. So to complete it, the player would either need to get a 1 of bamboo or a 4 of bamboo, right? However, that player, and also quick aside to mention, you're probably telling me, well, that's fine, that player already has 2 4s of bamboo, but those 2 4s of bamboo are his pair. If you look at the rest of his hand, there's no other pairs. So he has to have that. But the problem is, he's in Furiten, and why is he a Furiten? If you look at his discard pile, he has a 1 of bamboo in it, which means he accidentally threw away a tile that would have made him win if he didn't, right? Because the 2 tiles he's waiting on right now are the 1 of bamboo and the 4 of bamboo, right? And the thing is, he was pretty much in the right to toss that 1 of bamboo, because you can, if you look at this hand right now, 6, 7, 8 of characters, 4, 5, 6 of circles, 2 and 3 of bamboo, 4 and 4 of bamboo. Hey, he's going for alt simples, so he cannot use any terminals. Therefore, he has to use the 4 of bamboo to complete his hand. However, he went for a a straight of 2, 3 of bamboo, but a straight of 2, 3 of bamboo can be completed by a 1 or a 4. So even if he only wants the 4 and tossed away the 1 is still one of his weights. He's still it would still complete the formula of 4 melds plus a pair if he got the 1 of bamboo. And the fact that he has discarded that tile that would otherwise have made him would have made his hand complete means that any tile that completes his hand is now Furiten and cannot be called out from another player's discard pile. So basically, discard Furiten is really annoying. You have to watch out every time that you're waiting for a tile. You have to watch out, wait, do any of the tiles that I've thrown actually complete this wait? Because if they do, then I'm in Furiten. The game will tell you, obviously, but you can know ahead of time. Because if that's not the case, then I'm going to be in Furiten, and completing my hand's going to be hell. So that's it for discard Furiten. I'm going to do a quick stop. Has everyone managed to understand what the hell discard Furiten is? Because I can go over it again. Alright, this should be fine then. If no one's piping up, then I'll assume that everyone has gotten it. Or that I've lost everyone. It's also a possibility. But anyway, discard Furiten is the one that happens most often. And you have to watch. That's the one you have to watch out for the most. Because that's the one that's going to get you more than anything else. Is I'm waiting on this or that other tile. Oh, wait. I've I've already discarded that tile, which means any of my weights is fucked. I have to change how my hand would win in order to not be in Furiten anymore. Yeah, what the box says is a player previously discarded any potential winning tiles in their current hand. And this screenshot's useful because you can see if he had the one says no Yaku, so that doesn't actually complete his hand. But it's still a potential winning tile, even if it doesn't net you anything. And whenever you are waiting on multiple tiles to complete your hand, if you've tossed one of those tiles away, all the tiles that you could be winning for are Furiten. So you have to change what your weight is in order to win off of someone else. And if you call Riichi while you're in Furiten, you cannot change your weight anymore. You have to go off the wall to win. That's the real shitter, is calling, like, the part that really sucks when you're beginning is calling Riichi out when you're in Furiten, because you cannot change your weight anymore, and you're in Furiten, so you can only win off the wall. If you missed all of it, just if you see that you're gonna be Furiten, it just means change your weight, change your hand up, change what you're waiting, change what you're waiting for in order to win, because as things are right now, you can only go off the wall, and it's rare that that happens. Is there any viability to going into Furiten? No. You want to avoid Furiten at all costs. It's a penalty. The only time where I would willingly go into Furiten is when the absolute end of the hand is coming up, and I need to be in Tenpai in order to earn some points and not actually finish my hand, right? Because at the end of the round, if you don't have anything but you're in Tenpai, even if your hand has no Yaku, and even if you're in Furiten, you'll still earn points. So that's the only time that I could see myself willingly go for a discard Furiten. Now, the other Furiten, the other types of Furiten, these are much more obvious and much less of a pain, because usually these will not come into play. So, temporary Furiten and Riichi Furiten are actually the same thing. It's just that Riichi Furiten is a bit more strict than temporary. So, a temporary Furiten is if someone discards a tile that you're waiting on, and instead of calling Ron and winning and just winning outright, you choose to wait for X and Y reason. It can be because you want to build your hand more towards a specific Yaku, or you want to target a specific player, etc., etc. Until the player that has discarded the tile that you want plays again, you cannot call Ron on anything. So that's something you have to watch out. Basically, in order to avoid temporary Furiten, whenever you have the option to run, do it. Then you'll never run into it. That's basically it. And the Riichi Furiten is the same thing, except if someone discards the tile you're winning on and you don't act up and you're in the Riichi, then you're in Furiten for the rest of the round. It's like temporary Furiten, except it doesn't expire. It's just that. So, if you're in Riichi and someone discards the tile you want, call Ron. Don't try to go off the wall. It's not gonna work. All right. So, this is explaining the relevant winds. So east wind, seat wind, and round wind. So we've already gone through that. Don't need to explain it again. And then obviously the dragon tiles that make a Yakuhai. All right. So that's it for the in-game tutorial. But I've got a little bit more to show you. Let me go back to my screenshot. I'll actually not show the screenshot, but I'll show some some slides that I made. If you're just starting out in Mahjong, the only category that you should remember for now are the basics. All the other stuff is you're probably not gonna get into it too quick, and you can just learn those more specific types of Yaku as you go. So the way that this slide is built is that you can see all types of Yaku left and right. The ones that are in black, it doesn't matter whether your hand is closed or not. It's always gonna be available. You can always do it regardless of the state of your hand. If it's red, then your hand has to be closed in order to score that Yaku. If your hand is open, you have opted out of all these Yaku, and you cannot do them anymore. And finally, the green Yaku are ones that you can do with your hand open, but they lose. If you see at the end of each Yaku, there's a number, and that's the number of Han that each Yaku is worth. So, for example, if I look down, I see terminals and honors in each meld. It's worth 2 Yaku, but if my hand is open, it'll be only worth 1 Yaku. Or, damn it, I said Yaku instead of Han again. Terminals and honors in each meld. If your hand is closed, it's worth 2 Han, but if your hand is open, it's worth 1 Han. So that's all you have to remember. Green equals -1 if your hand is open. Red equals cannot be done if your hand is open. Black means it doesn't matter whether your hand is closed or open. Alright, so the basics, I've already gone over Riichi, so I don't need to go through that again. Closed hand Tsumo, or Menzen Tsumo. This one is good. If you don't want to bother with Yaku, and you're just like, whatever, I just want to complete a hand and not worry about doing specific kind of shit. If you keep your hand closed and you actually pick the tile that you need from the wall, that counts as a Yaku. So obviously closed hand only, but that's one that very often combines with Riichi, because in order to Riichi you also have to have your hand closed. So something you can do if you have a hand that's not really that great, but you are in Tenpai and you want to score some points, you just call Riichi, and maybe with some luck you'll be able to go off the wall and you'll get 1 Han for Riichi and 1 Han for a close hand Tsumo. So that's something to keep in mind. Pinfu is I'll actually should I show this right now? I'll explain what no, actually I made a slide specifically for Pinfu. Pinfu is one of the most useful types of hand in Mahjong. So I'm willingly not explaining what this is right now because it's a bit complicated, but what I'll say is it's one of the easiest Yaku to get, but one of the hardest to explain. Let's just leave it at that for now. All simples, we've talked about it later, is your hand is only composed of tiles from 2 to 8 of any suit. No honors, no terminals. Right. And then finally, the last Yaku of the basics is Dragon/Relevant Wind. This is what the game was calling Yakuhai earlier. These are the ones. So this is a triplet of a dragon or a triplet of either your seat wind or the round wind. If you've got one of those, it is 1 Han per relevant triplet that you get. The next category I want to move on to is Oops All X. This is pretty self-explanatory. We've got all simples again. I had to include it because it made sense to have that in that category, even though it's part of the basics. All triplets, also pretty simple. It means that the 4 melds that are in your hand are all triplets, and they can be open or closed, and it could be any type of tile. Now 7 pairs is that's an exception to the standard way of building your hand. You can decide, instead of building a hand with like 4 melds plus a pair, you can decide, fuck that, I'll just do 7 pairs of stuff. And that's worth 2 Han. But since you're only building pairs, you by definition have to keep your hand closed, because you cannot steal tiles to build pairs. So if you decide to do that, you have to go off the wall 100%. But it is a pretty useful Yaku to go for if you start the hand and you notice, well, this hand's kind of shit, I don't really have any meld I'd like to work into. However, I have like 4 or 5 pairs already. Then just go for 7 pairs. It's pretty easy. Then you've got terminals / honors in each meld. This one's a bit tricky to get. Shut up, sorry. They're never gonna remember all of them. Terminals and honor in each meld basically means that all of the melds and also the pair that you're building have a terminal or an honor in it. However, they don't all have to be terminals. What I mean by this is, you qualify for this hand by you can qualify for this hand by having a sequence of 1, 2, 3 or 7, 8, 9. That will qualify you for this Yaku, even though all of your tiles are technically not terminals or honors. As long as you have got 1 terminal or an honor in each meld and your pair, then it's fine. Terminals in each meld. This is a more extreme version of the previous Yaku. Basically, you're once again allowed to do the 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3 sequences, but you cannot have any honors. So all your melds plus your pair have to have terminals in them, which means your pair automatically has to be a pair of terminals. And then there's the ultimate form of that, which is terminals and honors only, which is basically your pair is fully comprised of terminal tiles. So you cannot do the 7, 8, 9 sequence. And by definition, this hand automatically combines with all triplets, because the only way that you can make melds in this fashion is to get triplets. The next one is, I call it 1 suit plus honors. It's a dumb name. I should have called it flush plus honors. Basically, it's making you make your 4 melds plus your pair out of only 1 suit out of the 3 and honors. Any kind of honor is fine. And then finally, there's the biggest. There's the big boy that's worth 6 Han and 5 if your hand is open, which is the flush. Your flush is, well, all of my tiles are of the same suit. This is one of the Yaku that I had by screenshot earlier. Next, we've got the Check-em Yaku. So these are a bit more annoying to explain. 3 closed triplets. So the three closed triplets is a bit annoying to explain because it can be done with your hand open. However, the triplets have to all be closed to a point where you have to have them in your hand before you go into Tenpai. If you go into Tenpai, even if your hand is closed and you have 2 triplets and then a pair that you're hoping to complete for a triplet, you cannot get that Yaku. You have to have all the triplets in your hand before that. It's a pretty rare Yaku. You're probably not gonna see it very often. Next is same triplet in each suit. So that one is pretty self-explanatory. Think of it of having, for example, 4, 5, 6 of circles, bamboo, and characters in your hand. If you have that, whether your hand is open or not, whether you choose to steal tiles to make it happen, it's worth 2 Han. Then there's 3 quads, which is a meme. I've never seen it done. Quads are pretty rare, so seeing 3 of them in a single hand is really unheard of. So you'll basically never see that one happen. And the last one is 2 triplets of dragons plus a pair. Now, this one has a specific name. It's called 3 Little Dragons, or Shosangen. It's, as the name indicates, is when you have two triplets of two different dragons. So for example, I have a triplet of the green dragon and a triplet of a white dragon. And then I have a pair of the remaining dragons, so pair of red dragon in that case. So that's worth 4 Han. And just as an aside, if you manage to get a triplet of every dragon, then your hand is a Yakuman and is worth a ton of points. Finally, well, not finally, but next, there's the sequences. The sequences, well, these are just sequence-based Yaku, so they don't really subscribe to any other category. 2 same sequences, this one is pretty self-explanatory, is the exact same sequence is present twice in your hand. But it must be the same numbers and must be the same suit. If you have 4, 5, 6 of bamboo and then another 4, 5, 6 of bamboo, and you don't open your hand, you get this Yaku. If you get 4, 5, 6 of bamboo and like 4, 5, 6 of characters, you don't get that Yaku. It has to be the same suit. Then if you get that specific, those 2 same sequences, you get that, but you get two of them in one hand, which is extremely rare. I've never done it. And you keep your hand closed. That's 3 Han. The next one is same sequence in each suit. So it's the same thing as same triplet in each suit, except it's a sequence. So if I've got 4, 5, 6 of bamboo, 4, 5, 6 of characters, and 4, 5, 6 of circles, I get this Yaku. So it's 2 when closed, 1 when open. And the last one for this category is the straight flush. The straight flush is having 3 sequences, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the same suit. It's pretty strict. You can't just get any kind of straight flush and have it count. It has to be a clean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And finally, there's the meme shit. The meme shit is Yaku that kind of happen. You don't really plan for them to. But if they happen, then hey, you get more points or you pay more points. So the first one is double Riichi. Now, what is a double Riichi? It's a Riichi that's on first turn. If you're in Tenpai on your first turn, you can declare Riichi, and it'll be a double Riichi, and you get 2 Han instead of 1. That's just it. Ippatsu is it's a Yaku that is specific to when you are in Riichi. And Ippatsu occurs when one of the players deals the tile, or one of the tiles that you're winning on the same turn that you announce Riichi. You also earn Ippatsu if you call Riichi, and then the next time you play, the first time you pick, you go off the wall after calling Riichi, you get the tile that you want. If you top deck after that, you also get Ippatsu. There's a combination of Yaku that you get from that is called Riichi Ippatsu Tsumo, because when you call Riichi, your hand is closed. So if you get a Tsumo, you get the closed hand Tsumo Yaku, and if you get it on the first tile that you pick, you also get Ippatsu. So that's on a hand that doesn't have anything in particular going on. If you're a bit lucky, you've already got 3 Han secured. Now then, the next one is the last wall tile. If you're the last person to pick any tile, and you're in Tenpai and it completes your hand, no matter what is in your hand, it makes it valid, and you earn a Yaku for it. It's very rare, and it's extremely bullshit when it happens. It's not as well, actually, yes, it is more bullshit than the next one, which is the last discard. It's the same thing as the last wall tile, except it's the last discarded tile of the game is the one that completes your hand. You get an additional Yaku for it, and if your hand wasn't worth anything and you were just in Tenpai but had no Yaku, this once again makes your hand valid. The next thing is stealing a con. Now, stealing a con, we've talked about it briefly when I explained what completing a con was, and it's basically it. If you decide to complete a con, but the tile you used to complete that was dangerous and and someone else was waiting on it, they can call Ron on you, and that's an additional Yaku that you have to pay. It's only worth 1 Han, but it also makes a hand that wouldn't have had Yaku otherwise valid, so you have to watch out for that. Basically, bottom line, don't con willy-nilly. The last one is the Saki Special. This is the one that everybody loves and hates, and I do too. Is whenever you call con, because you've made a meld with 4 tiles, and usually melds are made with 3 tiles, you have to pick an additional tile to compensate, and you pick that tile from the dead wall, but you never know what that tile's going to be. However, if you're in Tenpai and that tile completes, and that tile's one of your weights and it completes your hand, that's a Yaku. And Saki, I've called it the Saki Special because that's basically how Saki wins big hands. It can be useful if you're in Riichi and your weights are super obvious. You should just decide, fuck it, calling con and trying to win off the wall. It's very unlikely that it happens, but when it happens, whoo boy. That's some fucking banter right there. Alright, gonna move on to the next. So the only type of Yaku I've not explained so far are Pinfu, which I will explain right now, and the Yakuman, which you don't need to know. At least when standing guard, you don't need to know those. So, Pinfu is the hardest to remember and probably the easiest to achieve. There's 4 requirements to qualify for Pinfu. The first is that your hand must be closed, and you knew that much from the previous slide because I had it in red. Next, no triplets in your hand, which means all the melds in your hand must be sequences, right? Next, no dragons or relevant wins, so you can have honors, but the only honors you're allowed to have are wins that are not your seat or not the round. Any other honor is not allowed to get Pinfu. And the last one is you have to wait on at least 2 tiles. Now, waiting on 1 or more tiles is a bit complicated. The first thing is you don't want your last tile, the one that you're waiting on, to be the pair, because that automatically means that you're waiting on exactly 1 tile, because obviously you're waiting on a specific tile to complete a pair. So the only way that you can wait on 2 tiles or more is through a sequence. For example, if I have a sequence, if I want to build a sequence and I have a 3 and 4 of circles, then I'm waiting on either the 2 of circles to complete the sequence or the 5 of circles. That's called a double wait. And that's how to achieve Pinfu. And that's annoying because you'll see that pretty often. You'll get, for example, 3, you'll have in your hand 3 of bamboo and 5 of bamboo. And that does not qualify you for Pinfu because, well, the only tile that completes that sequence is a 4. So, closed hand is pretty straightforward. No triplets, pretty straightforward. No dragons or relevant wins, straightforward as well. But the waiting on 2 tiles, that's the one that gets people. So you have to look out for that. Now, Pinfu, why is Pinfu good? Because it combines with a ton of shit. Riichi, all simples, close hand Tsumo, terminals in each meld, terminals and honors in each meld, 1 suit plus honors, 1 suit only, 2 same sequences, 2 same sequences times 2, same sequence in each suit, straight flush, double Riichi, Ippatsu, last wall tile, last discard, stealing a con. It combines with a shit ton of other Yaku, so when you start getting into the game and you've basically gotten down how to get a Pinfu, you can combine it with so much shit, then usually it'll be worth a bunch of Han. As such, there's a thing called a magic combo, which is a combination of 5 Yaku that are worth 1 Han. Riichi, this one's pretty straightforward. You're in Tenpai, you get your end closed, you call Riichi. Ippatsu, which means either someone dealt the tile you were waiting on, or you drew the last one that mattered. or you drew it yourself on your first turn. Tsumo, meaning, well, as I was saying before, you drew the tile you wanted on your first turn. Or not on your first turn, but to combine it with Ipatsu, you would need to do that. Pinfu, the above. And Tanyao, which is Tanyao is all simples. Which means all tiles are from 2 to 8 and no terminals. And no honors. That's a pretty easy hand to achieve. And it's already worth 8,000 points. So that's not really easy because you do have to get lucky in order to get Ipatsu and Tsumo. But that's called the magic combo that gets you 8,000 points just from basic as fuck Yaku and a little bit of luck. And if you don't get Ipatsu or if you don't get Tsumo, you can cover it up with some Dora. Some bonus tiles. So that's something to consider as well. Pinfu is super useful. Alright, and the last thing I have for you, and this went way longer than I thought, which sucks because I don't think I'll have time to actually play a game on stream. Why you mustn't play Connect Con. This is directed to all the new friends who see that button can pop up and they're like, holy shit, let's show off and play Connect Con and have a meld of 4 tiles because I'm so cool and yeah. You shouldn't. Most of the time when you're able to go for con, you probably shouldn't do it. Because con can be useful, but it's also super dangerous. As we've seen before, calling con adds another Dora to the game. Now, imagine that one of your opponent has they've called pawn on something. For example, let's say, oh, they had 2 white dragons, someone discarded the third one, they've called it because, you know, it's a Fanpai. It's worth a Yaku. Sure, let's call it out. I'll open my hand. And then this way my hand is worth something. If you call Khan after that, and the tile that reveals itself is the red dragon, I think is the proper one. I always forget the order of dragons, but whatever. Point is, if you call Khan, there is a very real chance that pawn of white dragons that your opponent did might become Dora, which means the opponent's hand that went from 1 Han is now worth 4 Han. And that means a hand that would be worth 1,300 points just from that one Khan would be worth 8,000 points. So be on the lookout for that. Khan are dangerous. They can add a lot of points to your hand, but they can also add a lot of points to other players' hands. So, you should never call Khan if someone called Riichi. Why is that? Because Riichi has a specific mechanic built into it in order for you to earn more points by doing that. This is something I haven't explained, but when you call Riichi, if you manage to complete your hand, you not only benefit from the Dora that was shown at the beginning of the game, but there is also a tile under the tile of Dora called the Ura-dora. And the Ura-dora is a tile that you don't know what it is until you've completed your hand. And once again, it's an extra Dora that only activates if you are in Riichi. No, you've not missed any gameplay. I've not had time to explain everything. So for each Dora that is in play, there's one Ura-dora in play. So that means that if someone has called Riichi and you call a Khan while that's going on, you effectively not only add 1 Dora for everyone, but you add 2 Doras for the guy that's in Riichi. So you are essentially allowing him to get a shit ton of points off of you. So watch out for that. If someone called Riichi, you don't call Khan under any circumstance. How fast are games? It depends. Depends on dealer keeps. I'd probably just do a quick east turn, but we can keep playing afterwards and then do it off air. It's fine. And then maybe I can do another stream on like Sunday or some shit for gameplay. Next, you should never call Khan if someone's obviously in Tenpai. It's hard to tell whether or not someone is in... God damn it, Roboco. Anyway, you should never call Khan if someone is obviously in Tenpai. And how you can tell that someone is in Tenpai is by knowing the Yaku very well. And if, for example, some guy has opened his hand and has like 3 pawn of something, you can start to tell yourself, okay, this guy's probably going for all triplets. I'm ignoring this bot. This guy is obviously going for all triplets. So, and he's probably in Tenpai because he's already completed 3 melds. So, it's pretty easy for him to be waiting on the last meld plus the pair. So, you have to watch out for that. If you see... And you'll be able to tell who's in Tenpai or not based on how they've opened their hand as you get more experience in playing the game. But you should never call Khan. Let's see. We'll say that if someone has opened their hand and they have like 3 melds visible, don't call Khan. That means they're close to Tenpai. If someone is going for a lot of triplets based Yaku, I would advise against calling Khan as well. Just for the same reason that I explained earlier. If the Dora that is revealed ends up being one of the triplets that the guy has, that will add 3 Han to his hand, and that's pretty brutal. Obviously, you don't call Khan if it breaks your hand. For example, if, let's say, I have in my hand a triplet of 5 of characters, and then in my hand I also have a 4 and a 3 of characters. If you draw a 5 of characters, or the last one, it might be more useful to not call Khan, because that way that gives you 2 melds. A triplet of 5s, and a sequence of 3, 4, 5. So you have to be a good judge of, okay, if I call Khan here, does it affect how I'm gonna build my hand? Does it make it more difficult, or does it not matter? If it doesn't matter, then it's not so bad. But if it does matter, and you're forced to play around that, then I would say don't go for Khan. If someone's hand has too many Dora in it, you obviously don't want to add any more, so you probably want to avoid calling Khan. Now, situations where you can call Khan is if you call Riichi, and when you call Riichi, you can only declare a closed Khan. So for example, let's say, oh, I called the Riichi and in my hand was a triplet of South Wind, and I somehow draw the last South Wind. Well, I'll complete my Khan, and this counts as a closed Khan because your hand is closed. I'll complete my Khan, it'll be a closed Khan, and this way I not only add a Dora to myself, but also an Ura-dora if my hand comes to fruition. You can call Khan if you're in Tenpai, and calling doesn't break your hand, because there's a real chance of you actually finishing your hand. And obviously, I say doesn't break your hand, so if you're going for something like Pinfu, but then again, if you'd go for Pinfu, you probably don't have triplets in your hand to begin with. But if you're going for something that doesn't really want triplets, then don't call Khan. The next one, if it's an honor tile, and the reason for that is the only way that honor tiles are useful is if you're doing a triplet or a pair out of it. So let's say if you call the triplet of White Dragons and you get the last one, you can always complete that Khan because you are sure at 100% that it does not complete anybody else's hand. So if it's an honor tile and you have a triplet of it and you pick the last one, you can always call that one for a Khan, and you know that it won't get stolen away. Oh yeah, you can also call Khan if 3 Khans have been called and shit's getting out of hand. This is really rare. I've never really seen it happen, but if people have already, and this will probably happen in bronze rooms, if people call Khan so much that there's been 3 cans called, and you see that people are starting to get a bunch of Dora and it's starting to look really bad. If you have the opportunity to call Con, and like your hand is kind of shitty, you're not close to completion or anything like that, I would probably advise you do it, because that will end the round in a draw. And then finally, you can call Kan if it's closed and you're close to Tenpai, because closed hands are, generally speaking, pretty safe. And if your hand isn't worth much, you can help it get it more Han off of it. It's a gamble, but it's a gamble that might work out in the long run. So, the 3 golden rules. Do not complete a con if the tile is unsafe. This is what I was talking about earlier. Cons can get stolen if you have a triplet out and you decide to complete the con by drawing the tile later. I'll show some gameplay. It's fine. If you guys have made accounts, I'll be posting a link to a room in like a few minutes. If it's an let's see. Do not go for open con if you don't know what you're doing. As a blanket rule, if you don't know what you're doing, don't open your hand for a con. Not worth it. Even if it's honors, don't do it. Not worth it. If it's a close con and you're close to Tenpai... Oh, wait, no, fuck. I'm reading the wrong line. Do not call con if someone already has a Dora triplet. Because that means the opponent already has 3 Han. And by the off chance that the tile you reveal from the con is the same as the previous one, that means that triplet that is Dora is worth twice as many Dora. So that's 6 Han that your opponent automatically has. So don't call for Kan if someone has a Dora triplet, or even worse, a Dora Con. If someone has a Dora quad, stay away from that shit. Unless there's 3 quads that have been called and you want to end the hand right there. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first thing I notice is that there are 2 red dragons in my hand, so I want to keep those and hopefully get a triplet out of them, because that's an easy Yaku straight off the bat, and then I don't have to worry about my hands being valid. The next thing I'm noticing is 4 of circles and 8 of bamboo don't really do anything for me, so I can just toss those away because they're not close to any other tile that I have, and it's not going to help me to keep them. 4 might be a little bit more useful because it's closer to 5. Usually, when it comes to simple tiles, you want to get the ones that are closest to 1 and 9 away from your hand first, because it's harder to play around them than it is from tiles that are around 5. As you can see, I just drew a 6 of circles, so now I can keep this 4 of circles, because if I get a 5, then it's a sequence. So I'm just gonna discard the 8 of bamboo, because I don't think it's gonna do much for me right now. You also notice that the Dora for this round is the south wind, and it's kind of reflecting some light, because the Dora indicator is the east wind, and the order of the winds is east, south, west, north. Here the game is asking me if I want to pawn, because I have 2 tiles of 3 bamboo. I'm just gonna skip, because opening your hand at any opportunity is not a good idea. If I was going for a specific hand where calling any kind of triplets would be useful to me, like for example, say, oh, I want to do all triplets, then I'd probably call pawn here and get the triple right now. But here it's not really helping me too much. So since I don't want to knock myself out of any Yaku, I'm gonna keep my hand open. So you can see that the south wind is Akadora, and that can be very dangerous because in this case it's Seesaw that's in that is in south wind. If he manages to get a triplet of those winds. It not only makes his hand valid because he has the south wind, but it's also Dora, so right off the bat, his hand is worth 4 Han. Just straight up, off of that single triplet, his hand will be worth 4 Han. So that can be pretty dangerous if he can get that, if he can pull that off. So here the game's asking me if I want to cheat this because I have an 8 and an 8 and a 7 of characters, but I already have the 9 of characters. The game's asking you anyway, but I'm just gonna skip here, and looks like Cease has disconnected. I'll wait for him for a bit. He might reconnect. Anyway, I picked out the one of bamboo, and I could do a sequence with A2 of bamboo, but I already have a pair, so I probably don't want to. Go for that. I probably just discard the terminal right now. Another acceptable discard here would be the south wind. Because once again, my goal here is the goal for my hand here is just to get a Fanpai and then complete the hand as fast as possible. By the way, for the others that are in the room, feel free to ask questions about the gameplay that's going on and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I was drinking water.
Yeah, it's fine. But if you have like any questions about shit that's going on that you don't understand, or you want me to go over why did I do X choice instead of that, I can do that.
There was a way to pull up hands in game, right?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Oh, there's a way to pull up hands in game, right?
You mean steal tiles from other?
No, to check to recheck.
Oh yeah. You mean the Yaku? Yes, you can. If you go to the gear at the top right, it opens a menu. You go to others, and there's view Yaku, and then there's a list of Yaku by how much they're worth. You can also access the brief tutorial this way.
Okay.
This also goes for normal Mantis and Seesaw. If you have questions and you don't understand something about what's in your hand, you can ask me questions, since this is more of a demo game than it is a real one. Now this is interesting. I picked out a 5 of characters, but you're noticing, hey, it's shiny, which means, and it's red, which means it's an Akadora, which means this tile is worth some amount of points, and I have a 3 of characters that's not really doing much besides being near a pair of 2s that I've got right here. So, you know what? It makes more sense to keep that in my hand than to wait for 2 other south winds to come by. So I'm just going to discard the south wind. Because this way, if Seesaw discards a 4 of characters, or I end up grabbing it from the wall, then that's a meld from me worth 1 extra Han just because I picked out the Akadora. So right now what I've got in my hand is 1 meld, and I'm waiting on basically 5 other melds. You might call it a waste to be waiting for so many melds where you're not going to be able to complete all of them, but having pairs is always useful because you can complete them into triplets at any time, and they're also safer to discard in sequences. What I don't like about my hand is that the 2 sequences I've got that I'm waiting on, I've got a center weight on them. So basically this sequence right there, I need a 4 of character, but I've already got the edge, but I've got the edge tiles for that sequence. And it's generally more annoying to have to complete a sequence by waiting on the center tile than by waiting on an edge tile.
So what's the Dora right now?
The Dora on this game is the south wind.
Oh, okay.
Just as a reminder, the tile that's at the top left indicates which the next tile in the rotation is the one that is Dora. So for winds, it goes goes from east to south to west to north. And for dragons, it goes from white to green to red, back to white.
Okay.
And then for suit tiles, it goes from 1 to 9 and back to from 1 to 9. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So here I picked out a 7 of circles. And now I'm thinking, if I discard my 4 of circles, I'm still waiting on a sequence, but I can complete that sequence with a 5 of circles, or an 8 of circles. And if I, rather than keeping this right here where I'm only waiting on a 5 of circles, so I'm just gonna delete that, get rid of the 4 of circles. This way I'm not just waiting on a single tile, but on 2 tiles, or 2 types of tile.
So, what are the 3 tiles that are next to your little portrait thing?
Right, these is because Seesaw is called Chi on one of your tiles, actually. So he's made a sequence, and since he did it by stealing one of your tiles, he has to reveal it and show it to the board.
So we pretty much know that he has 4, 5, and 6 of bamboo then in his hand.
And he has also opened his hand, which means he no longer qualifies for the Yaku that can only be done with closed hand, such as the Riichi, Pinfu, all that good stuff.
Alright.
How do you know your hand is open? Your hand is open as soon as you call out another player's... as soon as you steal another player's tile, you open your hand. Here I discarded the 6 of bamboo just because it doesn't build into anything from what I have in my hand.
So what happens when a tile is gleaming in the discard pile?
If a tile is gleaming, it means it's a Dora. So you can see right now the south wind is Dora.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That just means if you complete your hand and you have some in your finished hand, it's worth 1 Han per Dora tile. Well, basically that, Doogie, with the sole exception of Closed Con. Closed Con keeps your hands closed, but you probably won't be encountering it. Well, you might be encountering it. Who knows? But we'll see. HT, I'm gonna have to ask you to like make your question more precise, because if they drew an east wind, so first off, you can't make sequences with winds, it's triplets only. But yeah. Oh well, that's unlucky. Sometimes that'll happen. You discard a tile, then you get the exact same tile 1 turn afterwards.
Oh.
There we go. So here, normal discarded a red dragon. I had 2 of those, so I decided to open my hand and call Pon, because now my hand is open, but it is valid. And now I have to pick a Meld to wreck, because I've basically got 3 Melds and I can only do 2. So I'm just gonna get rid of this Meld probably right here, even though it's gonna get rid of a Yaku. It's probably not too bad, because completing a sequence on a center weight is more annoying than completing a triplet or a sequence when you're waiting on an edge tile. So I'm just going to discard the 3 of characters for now. How come there isn't a north, south, east, west wind tile sequence? I know, but the honor tiles do not go by sequence. They are pairs and triplets only.
No, I think I fucked up on turn 2. Oh well.
Something good about this game also is that when you're done, you can actually rewatch your games and see everyone's hands, and you can like learn a lot from it also.
I just have dick all right now.
I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
The heart of the tiles.
If you've got nothing,
Exactly the heart of the tile.
I mean, if you've got nothing and you want to play defensively, since I probably am the one with the scariest hand right now, because I have announced that I have a triplet of red dragons. So that means my hand, if I can complete it, it's worth some Yaku. So that probably means my hand is the closest to being done. So what you probably should do if you want to play defensive is look at the tiles I have discarded. I'll take that. Is look at the tiles I have discarded and discard some tiles that you have that are identical to them, because that way you know that by the rule of discard Furiten, I cannot win of a tile that is in a... I cannot win from another player off of a tile that is in my discard pile. So right now, 8 of bamboo, 1 of bamboo, south wind, 4 of circles, 6 of bamboo, 3 of characters, and 5 of characters are all safe. I cannot run you on those tiles. And real quick, I didn't have time to explain, but Seesaw discarded a tile that completed one of my sequences, and since my hand's already open and it's already valid due to having the red dragons, I just went ahead and completed the meld, because that gets me closer, and in fact that gets me in Tenpai. That when you get that little icon over there, it means you're in Tenpai. And if you click it, it shows your weights, and it shows how many of each tile of your weights is left. And this is one of them. So right there, Seesaw discarded one of the tiles I was winning on. So I obviously called it off for Ron. And my complete hand is triplet of dragon, triplet of 2s, 7, 8, 9 sequence. Another sequence that I forgot. It was 5, 6, 7 of circles, and then some other pair of singles.
So now the Dora is 8 circles.
Yes. And you'll see that Mantis started the first round by being east, and now Seesaw is east. Because the player that was east did not win any points, therefore the winds turned.
Okay.
So now we're in the second round of east.
And does being the other directions matter at all again? Or
Sorry?
does being the other directions like play a big deal when it's not their turn, or not like?
The dealer does well. The dealer plays a special role. I'm not gonna call Khan. Fuck you. The dealer plays a special role, but the others not really. The only information you need to keep in mind is what your seat wind is relative to if a triplet of to which triplet of wins makes your hand valid. So here I have a bunch of garbage and honors that I could get rid of, but if I draw another one of them, they could potentially get useful. What I'm also noticing is I have 1, 2, 4. Now 1, 2, 4, I usually want to get rid of the 1 because that gets me closer to all simples, and I'm regardless if I get rid of the 1, I'm still gonna wait on the 3 to complete my sequence. So I just discard the 1 of character when that happens. Because if I get rid of the 4, if I get rid of the 1 or the 4, it doesn't really matter, but as a blanket rule, you generally want to discard, if you have the option, you definitely want to discard terminals over simple tiles. As I see right now, I already got 2 Melds in my hand, but I don't have anything that is worth a Yaku straight off the bat, so I'm probably looking at building something pretty generic, like right now it could be a Men's and Tsumo, it could be just a regular Riichi, right? It could be a Riichi, a Men's and Tsumo. Sorry, Men's and Tsumo is closed hand Tsumo. I gotta get used to not using the Japanese terminology. I could do an all simples, though I would need to break one of my Melds for that, so that would kind of suck, but I could go into it. I've done it before. But right now my hand's pretty open. There's a decent number of possibilities. And as the game goes on, if I notice that I'm not getting any more of these honors, I'm probably just going to start tossing them, because the thing with East Wind, well, in this case East Wind, yes, and dragons, is that the longer you take to discard them, the dangerous they become. Because as players draw tiles, it becomes increasingly, the chance of them getting several dragons or East Wind increases. So if you wait too long to discard a dragon, it might be something that they're waiting on, because it's something, because the Fanpai triplet Yaku is so easy to do that whenever you have 2 dragons in your hand, you probably want to hang on to them. Okay, so same deal as last time here. I'm gonna discard the 2 of characters, because here, if I do 2, 3, 4, I'm only waiting on the 3 of characters, and that's not very nice. Here I get once again an Akadora, and I even got the 6, which I already have, or I can wait on the 3 of characters. So there is no advantage to keeping that 2 of characters, so I'm just discarding it. Now, we know that there's not going to be another 6 in-game, because Seesaw's already discarded 1, and I've got the 3 others. So if I want to have this as a triplet and this as a sequence, I have to wait on the 3. But I can also have 4, 5, 6 as a sequence, and this as a pair. So it can be useful to still go for that. And this is also useful if I want to go for Pinfu.
So just checking again, the off to the side tiles are my basically like reserved hand.
Yes.
Okay.
You've opened your hand, and these tiles, like they're part of your hand still, but you cannot touch them anymore.
Yes.
So here I picked out a 4 of characters. I could do a pair with this, but I've already got kind of a straight, kind of a sequence set up. So this doesn't really do anything for me, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. Alright, so Mars, what we'll do is, in 10 minutes, I'll move over to the backup vocal channel, and then we'll finish our game there, and you can get going with you can get going with the Star Trek. Sorry for for eating so much time.
It's okay. It's the first attempt at this.
Yeah.
Explain red tiles one more time.
So red tiles are called Akadora, and they are worth. They act just like a Dora, but they are always active.
Oh, okay.
Dora change every game. Akadora stay the same regardless of the hand. But they act in the exact
You
same
don't need
way.
to have all red tiles for the bonus. It's just if the one's in that play.
Yes, as long as you make a sequence or any meld or even a pair that has a red tile, it acts just like a regular tile. It just adds one hand to your hand.
So at X25, I'll move me, Mantis, send you over.
Okay.
So you guys don't have to click out, tab out or anything.
Okay, that's cool by me. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
And this is first to what? Or what are the conditions?
The conditions are either we go. The game stops after East 4, or if someone goes negative.
Oh, okay.
So you can always check how many points you have at the center of the screen. This is something I haven't pointed out, but the big number at the center is the amount of points that you have. Everyone starts with 2,500. I got a run on Seesaw on the first round for 1,000 points, which is basically the lowest amount of points you can get. And here I picked out a character. Doesn't build into anything. I don't want to wait for a 7 character to build it with a 6, so I just discard that. Yes, only one person needs to go negative for the game to end.
Oh, I can go again? Oh, because... Okay, never mind.
Chi.
Well, not necessarily, Mars, because you would need someone that's good to have a good hand in order to get that many points. I mean, you can see right now, first hand, I completed it, but it was only worth 1,000. And yes, being able to build your hand is a skill, but there's always going to be an element to luck in Mahjong. If the game doesn't want you to build big hands, it's not going to let you.
So I'm locked out at Pinfu now.
Yes.
Okay.
If you've opened your hands, you've locked out of all the red Yaku that are in the image. And all the green Yaku have one Han less, but they're still doable. So now, I see that Seesaw has discarded a red dragon. There's also a white dragon that's been discarded earlier by normal. But since the rule of Tenpai Furiten applies, I'm just gonna discard the red dragon right now. Because I've waited enough. I've not gotten any other honor to go with it, so it's safer to just discard everything now. Even if the 7 of Circles doesn't particularly build into anything, I might as well just start getting rid of these right now.
Oh, I'm gonna move it over right now.
Okay.
Alright.
So here I could chi this, but I already have the meld complete, so it doesn't do anything for me. So I'm just gonna skip it. I'm gonna keep discarding the honor tiles. That's okay, Seesaw. I'll when we're done with this, I'm going to take the recording, edit it a bit, and then post it, and you can rewatch stuff. And I'll probably try to timestamp it as well, just so you can skip to the relevant bit of information that you want.
I think I got everything back again.
That's good.
It's just some glossary stuff, but I am like looking back and forth.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've never heard of anyone able to just swallow all these rules in one go. Mahjong is really fun, but the rules they're definitely a drawback to learning it.
yeah.
But you'll go through a phase of this game is a pain to learn, to this game is really fun, to this game is a real pain because of luck shitters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One skill doesn't matter as much, and like games are decided mostly by luck. Oh, do you guys want to stop here?
Oh. Yeah, we can do it.
I don't mind. I don't mind to keep going.
Okay.
What the fuck is that? Oh.
As a reminder, chi means well, it probably isn't here, but pon means you steal the tile of the other player and add it to form a triplet. But it opens your hand as a result. There you go. So right now, what normal could be going for with his triplets, he could go for all triplets. He could go for Seesaw. There's a desktop version that's much less of a resource hog. I'll link it to you after this. But yeah, the hands that
the mobile version works decently well too, right?
Yeah, the mobile version's pretty good. Yeah. But when on computer, it like chugs like crazy. I agree. I'll give you the desktop version for sure. It's pretty easy to install and it works it works well. So. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, normal actually has a pretty good set of tiles going because he could go for a number of hands. He could go for all triplets. He could go for fully outside hand, which means only terminals and honors. He could go for only terminals, though that would be really difficult. He could go for half outside hand if he starts getting sequences that have a terminal in them. That's also something he could do. So even though he's opened his hand, he's opened it in a way where there's definitely still a bunch of Yaku that he can get that are interesting. And so right here, what I would start doing, since normal has shown these triplets, I would either look at tiles that have been discarded twice because I know that he cannot make triplets off of those, or I'd start to look at avoiding to throw honors or terminal tiles, because I know that those are dangerous because there are Yaku that build into it.
What's the X number under East 2, Minion?
Under That's the number of tiles remaining in the wall.
Oh, okay.
When that number goes down to 0, if no one has a complete hand, the round ends. And the people that are in Tenpai get additional points. 1,000 per person. Also here I discarded the East Wind. Same deal as before. I want to get rid of all the dangerous honor tiles now. Because they don't do anything for me. So now that I've done that, I probably look to do all simples. Even though that 9 of bamboo is kind of annoying me.
Explain cons one more time.
Okay, so when you have there's 3 different kinds of con. The first one is when you have the 4 tiles in your hand, and that's called a closed con. You can just declare that, you set that aside, your hand is still closed if you haven't opened it before. And that's just that's it. And it reveals a new Dora. All cons that are done reveal a new Dora. An open con can be done if you have 3 tiles, 3 of the same tiles, and then someone discards the last one. So for example, when Seesaw discarded the 6 of characters, I could have opened my hand and called for con, but I didn't. And the last way to get a con is if you have declared a triplet, like the 9 of characters of the 1 of bamboo, and then you pick the last tile. You pick the last tile in that quad. You can declare con on that, and it's called a completed con. And completed cons can be stolen if someone is in Tenpai and they're waiting on the tile that you completed your con with. So for example, here if I was in Tenpai and I had a 2 of bamboo and a 3 of bamboo, and you completed your tile, you completed your con with the 1 of bamboo, I would call Ron on it and win off of that. Oh, Seesaw's disconnected.
Is there no auto for him?
He can come back, but yeah, this browser version doesn't seem to be working well for him, and I'm not that surprised, honestly. It's kind of shit.
And mobile can play with desktop, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's all browser based, even though there's a desktop version,
Yeah.
but it's the same servers, so it doesn't matter. How much longer is left? At least two more rounds.
Yeah, 2 more rounds. It's 4 turns, or when someone hits negative.
Yes. It's your call, Seesaw. It's I'm fine with either.
I think it'll AI you if you want to stop.
Yes, it will. So here I picked out the 9 of circles. It doesn't build into anything. I just discard it. It might not be wise looking at Normal's hands, but I still go for it. because it doesn't build into anything I'm trying to do. Oh, now this is interesting, because this actually completes a straight. But for now, I'm just gonna toss the 2 of characters because it's not doing anything for me. But now I have to think about what do I do with this, because I know I'm not getting any more 6s, so I can't have my pair here. Or if I want my pair, I have to draw a 3 of characters, right? So the next thing I want to do, just because I know it doesn't do anything to keep this tile, is get rid of the 7 of characters, just because it doesn't build into anything. And I'm winning on the 6 or 3, so. And it's safer than discarding the 9 of bamboo right now. Because normal might be waiting on that. Here, South Wind is my wind, but I haven't seen anyone discard it. Though it probably could have been dangerous if Normal had the 2 others, but I think it's unlikely, so I just discard it. It was probably a bit late to discard, though. Here I'm playing pretty aggressively, all things considered. I'm not really looking into what kind of tiles the other players could be waiting on. If I was playing on like a ranked match, I would be playing much more defensively. But the players we'll go up against in bronze rooms, they all play fucking gung-ho as fuck, so it will be no different. There's no such thing as defense in bronze rooms. Alright, so here Mantis has called Riichi, which means he's 1 tile away from winning. So in order to defend against that, I have to throw away tiles that are in his discard pile, because I know that they're safe. So for example here, I've got a 4 of bamboo that doesn't build into anything from what I have, and I see that he also has 1 in his discard pile. So I discard that, and I know he's not gonna run me off of it. Oh, Mantis got lucky.
Oh.
He got the Riichi Ipatsu Tsumo. He also has 2 Dora, so that's gonna hurt.
Damn.
Yep. Yep. And he is not East. If he was still East, it would have hurt even more. But yeah, first hand Mantis completes. It's a Haneman. Pretty cool.
Alright, let's try this again.
Alright.
I deadass fucking my initial hand had 2 of those 8 circles. I was like, oh shit, well, I might as well just keep this.
Yeah,
game
yeah, good plan, good plan. So here I see in my hand a west wind and a north wind. I am east with east seat, so actually south wind, southwest and north all serve pretty much no purpose to me. So I just toss those first. Because I don't have a pair of them, I don't necessarily want a pair of those, so I just toss them. Because they don't give me any bonuses. Yeah?
I'm using a visual, and it's got all these hands, and then all triplets in a pair. It doesn't have to be all what's it called? Terminals, right? They could be honors too, if I'm saying this right.
All triplets in a pair can be anything.
Okay.
The only thing they have to respect for all triplets in a pair is that the 3 triplets have to be in your hand. You can't have like 2 triplets and then be in Tenpai and run off the third triplet and have that Yaku that way. You have to have the 3 or you have to Tsumo if you're gonna go for that. Tsumo is top decking. So here the Dora is the 5 of circles, and I am east, which means that I should look for a quick hand. Unfortunately, my starting hand doesn't really have anything that could lead me into a quick victory, so I'm gonna have to build this hand from scratch. Here I could Chi, I'm deciding not to, just because it would lock me into... It would open my hand and lock me into a terminal-based Yaku. But I picked out a green dragon, so that worked out well for me. I'm just gonna keep tossing out these winds that I don't want. So again, discarding South Wind doesn't do anything for me, I don't need it. Usually if you see at the beginning of a game, you have one tile of a specific wind, and if that wind is not your seat wind or your the round's wind, you just discard it because it doesn't really do anything. If you have a pair, then that's different, but... Here I picked out 9 of circles, which obviously builds into nothing in my hand, so I just get rid of that. Next I'm probably looking at tossing the white dragon, just because normal has discarded one of them before. So yeah, as mentioned, I get rid of the one... I get rid of the white dragon, just because, again, doesn't play into anything.
Alright, I feel the flow this time.
Nice.
Third time's...
Okay, so this is actually useful. It completes a straight, so... As a, Well, let's see, actually, because it completes this straight. Yeah, I think that's fine. As a rule of thumb, I always discard the terminals first, just because they're harder to handle, and most people... It's harder to complete a hand with terminals, so usually you want to toss them first. And that one doesn't particularly build into anything, and it's... The only other terminal I've got is in a pair, so I usually kind of want to keep that at least. And that would be useful also to get rid of the all terminals. It would be useful for all simples, but obviously I'm not going for that right now. I may be if that doesn't pan out, but that's not what I'm going for right now. But it's a good backup to have. Alright, so Mantis called Riichi again. I see that two white dragons have been discarded, and I've picked another one. So I just discard that again because it's unlikely that he's waiting on a pair of those. Here, Mantis just discarded one of bamboo. I've already discarded one myself, so the one of bamboo is still not useful to me, so I just get rid of that again.
Okay, hold on.
Alright, so there's an 8 of bamboo in my hand that doesn't really build into much. It could if I had a 7 of bamboo, then I could have a sequence off of it. But I do want to play somewhat defensively, and I see that Mantis is one in the discard pile, so I just toss that. Here this is a bit more subtle. So I see that there's a lot of circles in Mantis's discard pile, so I'm thinking maybe he's not waiting. Maybe he's not waiting on circles, which might very well be the case. Maybe he's waiting on a pair or a triplet, and then there's no way to know. But I see that I have a 1 of circles, and usually people don't like to wait on terminals, so I just toss that. Same thing. Alright. Now this becomes interesting, because in order to defend properly, I have to look at 2 discard piles. So that becomes pretty difficult, but I see that there is a 6 of bamboo in Normal's discard pile, and Mantis's Riichi was before that, so that means that the 6 of bamboo does not complete his hand either, so I can discard that and be safe. That one you need to think a little bit about. Yep, there it is.
Oh my god.
Oh, he went for 7 pairs. Nice. He went for the 7 pairs.
Fucking 1 tile away from
Yeah, that'll happen often.
from a pure straight. God damn
Nice. Oh, you guys are going for the big dick Yakus. That's good.
it. Let's see.
I've not been able to do any of these. I'm just like, fuck it. I'm gonna do fucking the basics. Do it.
I mean, I just got super lucky with that last one because I started off with like a fuck ton of pairs, and I was like, okay, what if I just keep this?
I mean, that's a good call. That's a good call. If you start with like 4 more pairs, usually 7 pairs is a good call. If you're doing that, you either want to go into 7 pairs or you want to go into all terminals. All triplets.
So if I'm reading this right, Denko is the east wind, you're
Yes.
the north wind, and I'm the south wind.
Yes, exactly.
And C-sub would have been the west wind. Okay, I just want to make sure I got that right.
Yep. And if normal doesn't win points on this round, this will be the last round.
Okay.
Because we're playing just east, because south round would take too long.
Yeah.
I could have set it to a single game also, but we wouldn't have had time to learn anything. So here, I picked up this style that doesn't really do much for me, but I also have some terminals that don't do much, such as the 9 of characters and the 1 of circles, so I just get rid of the 1 of circles. Doesn't really matter which one you discard first. We're at the beginning of the game, so anything is pretty safe right now. So here I picked a pretty useless tile, so I just discard it. I don't even wait on it. Again, that doesn't build into anything at all. And since I didn't start the hand with any honors, going for all simples is pretty sound right now, so getting rid of terminals is something I can do. Actually, as a matter of fact.
I am, yeah.
Quite handily, in fact.
He always opens your hand, yeah.
So here I see that one of the east winds has been discarded. I just discard mine in turn.
Does Chi always open your hand?
Yes. Any call that isn't a close con means your hand is open.
Okay.
Yeah, any call where you steal a tile from somebody's discarded pile opens up your hand.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure. Let's see.
Chi.
Oh, this could be interesting. If I don't get the tile I want, I could actually get in Furiten here. In a couple of hands. Or in a couple of turns, I mean. But there's a real possibility that I have to look out for Furiten. So here again, terminal doesn't build into anything, just toss that. And so normally you'd expect me next turn to discard the 1 of bamboo, because it's my last terminal. But it is into a meld. And yeah, I don't want that. It is into a meld, and if I discard it, then I have to get a 4 of bamboo somehow, or else I'm going to be in Furiten if I get into Tenpai that way. So I have to watch out for that. Here the only tile that's not directly neighboring another is this 4 of circles, so I just get rid of that, I guess. This hand's not that great, gonna be honest.
Yeah, same.
Here I could Chi, but it doesn't do anything for me too. And oh, interesting, I can actually Riichi here. Didn't notice I was close to Tenpai, but I guess that's what happens. So I will Riichi just to show it off. Obviously, you can mouse over and see what your weights would be. Discarding here obviously gives me a lot more weights, so that's what I do. There we go. So this is actually pretty interesting, because this is an example of a hand where I'm kind of I can wait on the pair, but also on a sequence. So that means my weight is not unique, and I'm technically qualified for Pinfu. Because this 4, 5, 6 right here could act as a sequence, and then I'm waiting on another 6 of characters to complete it, and that makes the pair. But I could also say these 2 of 6s are my pair, and then I'm waiting on either another 6 of characters or a 3 of characters, which means I have 2 separate weights, which means since my hand... Oh, I just got wrong. Since my hand was closed and I didn't have any honors or terminals in it, or I didn't have any honors in it. Well, not any honors, but I didn't have any relevant wins or shit like that. I would qualify for Pinfu. Anyway, normal 1, he was east, so we keep going.
Comeback time. Let's see.
Let's see you eat some tacos.
Oh no, this isn't gonna slip.
I've done some nasty last round comebacks in my day.
Let me see.
So once again, at first sight, this hand isn't the greatest, but I do see some stuff I could do with it.
Let's try this.
So here I could pawn, but I don't want to commit to that, so I skip. If it's dragons or relevant wind, then yeah, what? Even if generally speaking you want to avoid opening your hand for no good reason, if it makes your hand valid, maybe it's worth looking into. But some people purposely avoid calling.
Okay.
So here I could discard this dragon that I have, but I might pick up another one, so I'm waiting on it a bit. This is kind of a shitty wait to wait for the center, so I just discard the Nine of Circles again. Terminals go first. And to be fair, I could also have discarded the Nine of Bamboo. It wouldn't have made a difference in that instance, because this is why it's more annoying to deal with terminals, is because sequences don't wrap around. So having 9 and 7 and having 9 and 8 is the same thing. You're winning on one singular tile. So. And here, in hindsight, I probably should have discarded the other 9, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think I'll be doing much with either of those tiles. It's just now, if I draw an 8 of circles, I feel pretty dumb. Anyway, we keep going. Oh, this is interesting right here. I could if I get another one of characters from the wall, I could get Ipeko. There's probably a bad discard here too, but whatever. But yeah, I could get Ipeko, because you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, and then the other one, 2 and 3. And if I keep my hand closed, that's 1 Han. But then I have to commit to that, which can be annoying. Ipeko is one of those Yaku that's kind of a lot of effort for not much reward.
Oh yeah, it's only 1 Han.
Yep. And Ryan Peko, which is extremely rare, is only worth 3 Han.
No, it's...
Some of those Yaku are not worth their point value. Like 3 Kan, I've actually never seen someone do 3 Kans. And it's only 2 Han.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with Ipeko is... Oh, sorry.
Oh, so I was just saying they can't be open hand either, going back to what you were saying.
Yeah, Ipeko is close hand only, which makes it extra difficult to complete.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's worth so little because it combines into a lot of other Yaku, is the thing. So you can combine that with Pinfu, you can combine it with Tanyao. Tanyao is all simples. You can combine it with just a lot of other Yaku. It works well that way.
Oh, B.
Too nice.
You say ribs or ribs?
Rips.
Ribs, dude.
Ribs. Making some baby back ribs.
Yeah, dude,
Nice.
I'm making some ribs. I'm gonna email them all to you. I'm emailing you pictures.
Thanks, dude.
Too nice.
I don't think I'm cooking. Well, I have taco meat
Ooh, nice.
that'll probably make tomorrow.
So here I'm getting rid of 2 of bamboo because it doesn't really build into anything. If I get a 3, then I just build that with 4 and 5. I'm probably gonna look into discarding that dragon soon also. When you get to the end of the first row, it's probably where you should look into discarding the honors you're not gonna use. Northwind is different. Unfortunately, there's already 2 of them that have been discarded, so it's not that useful for me anymore. But if I could still get a triplet of that, since it's only useful to me because I am Northwind, I'd probably hang on to it much longer. But I could still make a pair out of it, though that would If I do make a pair out of it, it takes me out of Pinfu, because that is a relevant win for me.
Hmm.
God. Let's see here.
Oh, here again. None of circles. Useless to me.
Fuck this game.
Chi.
Okay, well, here I discard that. Pretty obvious decision.
Excuse me?
Hmm.
This can't be. NFL owners will vote next week on a resolution that would improve a team's draft position if it hires a person of color as head coach or GM.
Oh yeah, I saw that on FHG.
What?
Wait, what? Damn.
Yeah, fuck it. What? That's
There's no way that's even gonna pass.
that would be ridiculous. That's well, yeah, of course it's not gonna pass because it's all white people voting it down.
Damn, bro.
Yeah, dude, internalized racism. Fucking hate white people.
Yep, that's pretty common also.
Damn.
Winning on the dragons, these are always dangerous. And we keep going.
Thank you, Seesaw AI. Coming for that ass.
He is.
Oh no.
Gotta watch out. Okay, so this is kind of interesting
Honestly,
hand.
when I played IRL, the auto sort here is the biggest blessing in the world.
Yeah, auto sort is really good.
Okay, let's see.
I always make sure to sort my hands like this in real life too.
Yeah. Time to consult the sheet.
Yeah, it's good that this game has the cheat sheet at all times, because that's how I learned also.
Where's the cheat sheet at?
You click on the cog, top right, you go to others, and then view Yaku.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's been helping a lot.
Damn, I've just been flying by the pants of my seat the entire time.
Also, not work too badly.
Yeah, you know, but now I'm starting to slip, so I gotta up my game here. God. I wanna do that? No.
Oh yeah, I gotta take a ASIN picture.
So here
What
there's
kind
a
of picture you taking?
bunch of tiles that I can't really use, but Probably this one first.
Give me the rundown again on why terminals go first. Or why
Terminals
it's-
go first because they're harder to handle than simple tiles. For example, if I get a 1, then my only options are for a straight or 1, 2, 3. I have no other options. If I get a 5, I can go 5, 3, 4. I can go 4, 5, 6. I can go 5, 6, 7. That's basically the gist of it. Terminals are harder to handle.
Wait, what?
Got it.
Since they can't wrap around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember.
The hardest tiles to handle are the honors because you can't do straights with them. But after that, it's the terminals. Okay, so I think I know what I want to do here. I'm just gonna get rid of this this green dragon because it doesn't do much for me. Right, so here this tile, it's outside. I tend to call the tiles that are close to 1 and 9 outside tiles, and then the ones that are close to 5 inside tiles. I don't know if that's proper terminology, but it makes sense. Yeah, again, I already have my straight complete here.
Fuck.
Same.
Yes.
Same, kind of.
Let's see here. No.
Okay. So I'll probably get rid of the door now. Again, waiting on the door too long gets dangerous. There you go.
Ooh. Oh shit, that was my turn still. Oh well.
Watch out if you decide to play ranked, you get considerably less time to do stuff. Okay, here. That doesn't do anything for me, I just toss it. Okay. Start on getting rid of these. And again, discard this one. Probably looking at the honors because this is, from what I'm seeing, this is gonna be an all simples.
Oh.
Chi.
Wait, I looked away. Who cheated?
Me.
Okay.
Mantis did.
Fuck, what is this? Fuck this
Holy
wall,
shit.
bro.
What the fuck, bros? Donnie said that the walls was gonna make us great again.
Literally playing against me. Holy.
I mean, the point of Mahjong is destroying walls, not building them. Bit of the winds now.
Ah, fuck. I just.
Alright, I'll take that.
ポンです。
The other wind. Oh, I fucked myself. So guys, this is what Furiten looks like. Basically, one of the weights is the 8 of bamboo, which I have in my discard pile, so I can't do this weight. However, I can do this weight. My pair being flexible makes this less annoying than it needed to be.
Oh, fuck! I didn't mean to do that shit. Oh well.
Here I could change my weight, realistically, but there's no other tiles left for this, so I have to toss this.
Son of a bitch.
And again, here I could change my weight again, but it's less advantageous. There's less tiles of this. Oh! I see normal did a Sanshoku, or a same straight in all suits.
Whew. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Explain Footy 10 one more time.
Furiten is when I'm guessing in your case it's because you have discarded a tile, that right now you could have won off of. And since you've discarded a tile, that kills not only that weight, but every other weight you could have at the present moment.
Very nice.
So now you have to change your weight in order for it not to be Furiten.
1
Everyone's going for all singles, it looks like. Probably... Oh, that's really unlucky, actually. I would have Tsumo'd if I changed my weight.
I might have fucked this up. Let's see here.
Keep in mind that the end of the turn is coming up, so staying in Tenpai might be a good move. Just because if no one manages to complete their hand, then you'll earn points regardless. This is a dead tile. I say that a tile is dead when it can't possibly play into anything. So for example here, the other 3 white dragons were discarded, so there was nothing that could be done with that tile. It's just dead. Oh, okay. Well, I can't do that because I'm Furiten, so I have to discard that.
ロン
Oh, there you go. And that ends the game.
Oh my
中
god.
ドラ 私の勝ちですね。